Okay, so today we're starting Rambam's on Nevuah in Hilchos Yesodei Torah, and I was actually wrong when I said we were going to start with the פירוש המשניות with the formulation of the ikkar. Okay. I thought this was the long one. The long one is Nevuah Moshe Rabbeinu. This is a short one. So a lot of the ikkarim, if I asked any responsible YBT Talmud, what do you think the ikkar of Yichud Hashem is? I feel like people could answer that, or God not being physical. So the question is, how would you formulate? Anyone seen the ikkar on Nevuah lately? Okay, what would you include in the ikkar of Nevuah? Good candidate.
Giving people Nevuah.
And what's Nevuah? Yeah. See, this is an interesting thing, right? Yeah.
It's good that God's speaking to you, but that's like really reductive.
I don't think it's overly reductive. I think it's inaccurate, right? Because God only speaks to Moshe.
Yeah, as I said, overly reductive and not accurate.
Oh, no, I didn't hear the not accurate.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
The information received from a malach.
Okay, that's good. And do you care to specify? You don't have to feel obligated. That is part of your definition. What?
Not be proven.
Okay, yeah. What do you mean by information?
Images. It's the only time that a person can have visualization.
I mean, we had this discussion that would you be able to get Nevuah?
We maybe mentioned it in passing.
Okay, I think you wouldn't, because I think in another Perek, which we're going to try to not go into the more Nevuah with this, I think he does say you have to have a fully functioning imaginative faculty. And however you define imagination in modern terms, the Rambam's definition of imagination is about visualization. Like it's manipulating images in your mind. So if that was a career path from your Cornell thing, I don't think it's viable.
Yeah. Oh, so you're saying it shouldn't be the house.
Yeah, I guess not. Yeah.
Wait, but Isaac could dream and get information from dreams and stuff.
Didn't you say your dreams are not visual, or did you say that they are?
They're primarily not visual.
Yeah.
There's a small amount of it, like
get information.
Like you can learn things.
Yeah. So what we're doing is
I can get it.
You're right. That would be a weird conversation. No, we're doing. I was saying how the first 5 of the ikkarim are fairly easy. If I ask you, like, what do you think the Rambam includes in the ikkar? Right. You could probably say it, but the question was, what does he include in the ikkar of Nevuah? Right. And then that got to the definition of what is Nevuah before we're looking at the actual Rambam thing. I think this is helpful because it helps us appreciate what the Rambam does and does not include.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah.
Now.
Because we were talking about how I said, so Zev said information that you get
from a malach.
From a malach, yeah. And then I said what kind of information, and then Isaac said through images, and then that raised me the question because Isaac had this image thing, and then that got to the discussion about the more Nevuah thing about whether you need a intact imaginative faculty, and then I said Nevuah is not a viable career path probably, but according to the Rambam, maybe according to others. Yeah. All right, so should we take a look at it?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, and I also said I was wrong that the long ikkar is the 7th ikkar about Nevuah to Moshe, but we won't get to that yet. Oh, okay. I actually printed it out.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you like the book.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. There's one for you, and then.
Isn't it the same exact thing?
Yeah, I copied it from there. Yeah.
I bought a set of Rambam's Perek Chelek, but I didn't think about the fact that it's translation from Arabic.
Yeah.
And because the set I bought was like it was somebody else's translation.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Yeah, I do think that this translation is the best. Yeah. What's the what?
Which one is it?
This is the Kopach one, the 3-volume. It's the I think it's Mossad Rav Kook. Is it Mossad Rav Kook?
No,
that one.
It's not. It's
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. It's those, the blue. And, yeah. Okay, so this is at the bottom. Oh, sorry, Zev. It's on page Kuf Mem Beis in Sandhedrin. You got it? Okay.
It's
the 6th. Yeah. So bottom right. V'hayesod hashishi. Am I sharing the screen? Let me just check them. Oh, of course I am. Okay. V'hayisod hashishi hanevuah. So the sixth foundation is nevuah. It's interesting, by the way, just to note that I believe the Rambam does not use ikkar for the ikkarim. I don't know when that came about.
That's weird.
Or at least he doesn't use the way he's listing them. I think that there's a different word in Arabic for ikkar, but whatever. The Sefer Ikkarim, I care about that because he's much more technical in his definition of ikkar, or not more technical, but it is more of an ikkar to him because he's treating it right as a definition, a defining characteristic. It's a prophecy. Vuhu, namely, l'da'as is to know shezeh hamin ha'enushi, that this human species yesh sheyimtu bo ishim bale kishronos mifutachim me'od ushlemus gedola. Very interesting starting place is that in the human species you will find in it individuals who possess I'm going to say kishronos are qualifications, okay, or potentialities or dispositions that are mifutachim me'od, highly developed, ushlemus gedola, and great perfection. V'tisponin nafsham, and their soul has been readied or prepared, ad shemekabelas surat haseichel, okay, until it can receive the form of the intellect. You guys want to devote 2 weeks to active intellect? No, we did that already. Back to Al-Farabi. Okay, speaking of, that'll give you nightmares out. V'yischaber oso haseichel ha'enushi b'seichel po, you're right. And that human intellect will join, meaning that when it says that human intellect, he means the received human intellect or the one that has been informed, will join the passive intellect or the material intellect with the seichel ha'po'el, with the active intellect, which I think, not that I know what this means at all, I think that's a machlokus in metaphysics about whether the human intellect can join with the active intellect. So I feel like, just to footnote this, like this is weighty.
Right.
So when you come back to this, like when you're in your 50s or 60s, then yeah. Exactly, yeah. The yetzal, I never know how to conjugate that. Alehem mimeno atzilus shefa, and it will emanate onto it the overflow of its emanation. Right? That's the Elehem neviim. These guys are the neviim. Wouldn't it be anticlimactic? It's not talking about neviim at all. Yeah. So these are the neviim. V'zohi ha-nevuah, and that's nevuah. That's its concept. So the reason why I want to start with this, other than the fact that we're starting with the economy in general, is despite the fact that these are very, very raises more questions than answers, this is the cleanest, most concise definition of nevuah that I'm aware that the Rambam says, meaning that it has all the elements, So it's just good to know that this sentence exists.
Right.
Yeah. And then he says something that should be our guideline, which is ubir hayisod hazeh b'shleimus yarach ma'od. The clarification or explanation of this yisod is very long. V'ein matarasenu pirut kol yisod mehem ubir darchei adiaso. Our goal is not the particularization of each of the yisods, meaning that this itself has yisodos, I think, unless he's talking about all the yisodos. Oh no, I think he means all the yisodos. And the explanation of the way of knowing it, meaning he's not trying to verify the yisodos, because that would encompass all knowledge. Ella nazkirim b'derech hoda bilvad. Rather, I'll mention them by way of information or just knowledge alone. And the psukim of the Torah testify to nevuah, the nevuah of many neviim, and that's, remember, at the end of each yisod he quotes a pasuk, unless there's so many psukim that he just says the book are filled with it. Like Avodah Zarah, I think he does that also. The Sefer Tanakh are filled with Avodah Zarah. You don't need one particular pasuk. Yeah.
Right.
So the interesting thing that was not included in any of your definitions, which I also wouldn't have included, is the talking about the people who are neviim, and that's how he starts off. And this is another important metaphysical thing, I think, which is what's the contrary shita that he's opposing here, and not just in Judaism, like shita about nevuah in general. That anyone can get nevuah, right? So part of the yesod of nevuah is that it requires specific levels of high perfection for you to get it. Second element is the mechanism. Oh, look at this. Let's see if we can go to Aristotle's four causes here. So no, don't fret. Yeah. First he says the material cause, which is the people.
Right.
Then he says the the efficient cause, which is the joining, the merging of the Kabbalah Suras HaSeichel. That's how Nevuah, that's what produces the Nevuah.
Right.
Unless you include the Seichel Pol with that, which would make sense because that's literally
That's
what it
the
means. Yeah. Okay, so never mind. He doesn't go all the way because he didn't say what the purpose is.
Right. So
Yeah. And then Nevuah itself, it's interesting. He doesn't. He alludes to it here. Is the Atzilus Shefa? That is the Nevuah. In other words, the thing that allows the Nevuah to channel is the merging of the Seichel HaPol and the Seichel HaHuman, and then that allows the channel to go. But he doesn't say what the purpose is. But okay, anyway, I was just seeing if he was being like fully thorough there.
Right.
So that's Nevuah. So I need to know. Yeah.
Wait, and also, did I catch that he's saying, if you fully understood all the Yesodos, you would understand all of human knowledge?
No, I think in order to fully understand all Yesodot, you need all human knowledge. Yeah, and that I feel like is especially true of Nevuah, because you need to go into what knowledge is and all human, the soul and angels and God and.
I'm not ready for the knowledge one then.
No.
At least not when the Rambam had it.
Yeah, and you got to remember also that he was going to write the Sefer HaNevuah, which ended up being the Nevuchim, right? So that's what he wrote to I mean, obviously that includes more than just it, but
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
And,
so yeah.
noticing he didn't say that there's like a specific Hashem from Hashem, like
Right. He didn't even say that the knowledge comes from Hashem.
Yeah, he hasn't mentioned God.
Yeah, that's odd, right? It's from the same level, which is why I kind of inwardly bristled at your definition because it excluded God,
Right.
but
he didn't either.
he didn't either. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say knowledge from God, but then I realized that would include Moshe.
I see what you're saying. Right.
One of the X's.
Yeah, and again, obviously this Yesod is tied up in the next Yesod, which I debated whether or not to do the seventh one now, but I think let's do Nevuah first because in order to differentiate it from Moshe's. Yeah. Okay, so should we go to Mishnah Torah? I'm just kind of remember to bring the folder with the stuff. Here's one for you and one for Zev, and yeah, you could. I'll keep that. Yeah, I guess because we're gonna go back to it at some point. Yeah. Okay. So, Rambam Bekius Torah Perek Chelek HaNevuah Yesodei Hadas, which is also a weird thing. This is the first time he's used the term.
That's weird.
Yeah, didn't use it for ikkar hagadol hakol talibot, and then Yesodos later Sheshem Maturishan, but not Yesod of the Yesodei Hadas. Which Yesodei Hadas? Doesn't said.
Is this the first one? Does Nevuah affect anything
Good. I like.
other than just Torah? Maybe it's not what you thought.
No, but I like where your mind went.
Like, is it like maybe the before this, like when we're talking about God,
Yeah.
that's like affects how you relate to knowledge.
Yeah.
And this is just not all knowledge, but like how you relate to Torah or something.
Yeah, that's I think what he means. I think this is what I was thinking you were saying. It's the Yesod of the religion.
You're right.
The das,
Right.
meaning that everything up until now is just either knowledge per se, or it's a halacha. This is the foundation of Yahadus, in terms of you couldn't have a Judaism without Nevuah.
Right. But it's not the foundation of knowledge.
No.
Yeah.
That would be God's existence,
Yeah,
the knowledge of God's existence.
Knowledge of God is not just the Yesod Hadas, it's the Yesod Hadas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, don't you need a idea of whatever the active intellect is? I assume it's somehow relevant to knowledge and necessary for knowledge. And
Well, then why doesn't the Rambam mention it in this Perek? No, but I mean, it is interesting. I'm sorry, I finished your question.
Yeah, so I guess why is it not necessary for, like, not Yesod of Das, but Yesod of the Das? Like,
Well, this could rely on foundations of knowledge,
right.
but I don't know if you need to know. I mean, based on the ikarim, you do need to know about the active intellect. But you're going to see from here, like, it sounds like you can have this knowledge of Nevuah without knowing like what the active intellect is.
Oh.
We'll see. We'll have to be the judge because one thing is for certain, he did not use the term active intellect anywhere in the Mishnah Torah.
Right.
Right. Because we saw he calls it in Yesodei Torah Ishim,
Right.
which is the 10th level of Malachim. And here we'll see what he calls it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So Yesodei Das Leda Shakel, which I don't know what to make of the fact that he says the God, because I don't think he's referred to Hashem as Hakel in like a fundamental way. I mean, obviously he says Hakel Gadol, or no, he doesn't say Hakel Gadol. But in other words, whatever. All right, that's just the question. Like, why Hakel? Manabe Espene Adam, that God prophesies to man or enables man to prophesy. I don't know how to translate Manabe.
Yeah.
So it means to be or make a spokesperson, I think. Let me actually look it up in the Al-Torah dictionary. Anyone know where the first reference to Navi is? Like that's called Nevuah. I think it's Aron Achicha Yeh Neviacha. I can't think of anywhere in Breshis. Does it say anywhere in Breshis Navi? All right, let's see here. Navi. And I think it comes from the word niv, or it's related to the word niv. Niv Suffice is to pronounce something. Oh, no, never mind. It's in Breshis. It is in, where is this? This is by Paro and Abraham, or is it by Yitzchak? Vata hashev eshes ha'ish ki navihu. Yeah. Nice. So Navi, that is an odd first context for Nevuah up here. And oh my goodness, long definitions here. Okay, so Navi is spokesman, speaker, or prophet. So that's the first thing. And then in let's see here. I want to look at the Onkelos because I think Onkelos helps with this. He doesn't. Neviah. Yeah. No, I want to look at the Aron Achicha Yeh Neviacha because I think there he doesn't say Neviah. Let me just see that. Aharon. No. No, hold on. Aharon. Exit 7:1. Yeah, here we go. This is the wild thing here. So the pasuk says, "V'yomer Hashem el Moshe." Oh, I'm not showing the screen. Whatever. V'yomer Hashem el Moshe re'ei nesaticha Elohim lefaro v'aron achicha yihi neviacha. So the uncle says, "V'yomer Hashem el Moshe chavi demanita rav lefaro." So we translate Elohim as Rav. Okay, that's another instance of that. The Aron achicha yihi meturgamanach. He'll be your translator, right? I mean, the one who relays your words to someone else. Right. So like spokesperson, I think is a good literal translation of the noun navi. The verb, I don't know, spokesmanify. I don't know how to say it.
Targetify.
Yeah, because we can't say translate, right? But
right.
Yeah.
It is interesting that it.
Yeah.
It's interesting that like it seems like a riot to the Rambam's whole idea that you need to be at a certain level to be a Navi because God needs to use a spokesperson to talk to people. Like he can't just talk to everyone at once.
That's interesting. I hear that.
Or he could.
Yeah. Yeah, that is it's an interesting thing. I mean,
I'm getting that from here, and you say no.
I'm saying outside, yeah.
Oh, that's just interesting.
Yeah.
He uses spokesperson.
Yeah, because you could easily argue the other way.
Yeah.
Right, that God's greatness would be manifest if he talked directly to people.
Right, but I'm saying he doesn't.
Yeah, right, he doesn't. Yeah,
so, means he only talks to specific people.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if something's bothering me about that.
Yeah, might not be right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's finish reading the definition. Ve'ein hanevuah chala ela al chacham gadol b'chachma, gibor b'midosav. So Nevuah is only chal, which is an interesting verb. It only falls upon someone who's a chacham who's great in chachma, a gibor in his midos, which what would you have said about gibor b'midos? Right.
Well, I wouldn't say that.
That's what I would say. But then he says, "V'lo yihi yitzro misgaber alav b'davar ba'olam," and his inclination will not overpower him in any worldly matter, which seems to be that gibor b'midos is something different.
Seems like it.
So it sounds, yeah. So just loosely speaking, what would you say loosely speaking for what possibility could you have to resolve that?
He's like courageous, maybe is what it means.
Could be great. I mean, Gibor does mean courageous, yeah. But I feel like he wouldn't need to go to b'midot sav because I feel like that type of gevura is one midah,
Yeah.
not like something that's in his midos.
Yeah. Right. It could just be he's saying that he's in control of his midos, and the flip side is that his midos aren't.
No, he said that. I don't know if you got it. I thought.
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't finish reading it. Sorry. Elahum is gabra v'data al yitro tamid. Rather, he overpowers his yetzer with his mind continually. And then last part, bal dea rachava, with someone with an expansive mind. Nechona, that's good. Ad ma'od, or firm, very, very exceedingly.
I would have sent you one of those when you said it right after.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I think there's an answer though. I did just from my own just inferences here. I don't know what he actually holds, but I feel like Gibor Midosov must be referring to some perfection of his midos, whereas Lo Yitim Iskaberlov is his ability to not be overpowered by midos. And what I mean by that is you can be born with a certain predisposition, or like you could develop it early on, and that doesn't mean you have any self-control. Like let's say you're just naturally a calm person, or you're naturally, that doesn't mean that Lo Yitim Iskaberlov,
right.
So Gibor Midosov, I don't know what that perfection is, but some sort of perfection of midos, most likely what the Rambam says in Hilchos Yesodei, of a middle path, halachos b'drakav, with the chacham chassid dynamic,
right.
and then his mind is in control of the yetzer at all times.
Isn't that part of formulation? Like it'll happen like.
I don't think so because I mean certainly how you get there in most cases, but you can have someone who is naturally like that. I mean Mishle even has a name for it, is the Tom, which we haven't seen in Mishle. But yeah, like the last part is really talking about the mechanisms, so to speak, and like the Gibor Midot is talking about his level of perfection. And I wouldn't say this naturally. I'm only saying this because the Rambam divides between the two.
Are you saying that someone who's like naturally motivated is not only in a kind of and you just totally think it's not on the level before.
If he's not covered with Yitro, but he does have a perfection.
He wasn't naturally unhard in that way.
Let me think how to categorically state it. So you have a guy who is, let's say, naturally an anav, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he has control over his emotions.
Right.
That's Gibor Midot and not kovish as Yitra. Then so you've got a guy who is kovish as Yitra, or who can be kovish as Yitra, but he hasn't reached that level of perfection yet where he's aligned his midos in a middle path. Like he hasn't been emulating God in his midos. Like, let's say, for example, like you have a person who just, I don't know, didn't know about Judaism, but was a practicing Stoic or whatever, like, right. And then he like, oh, there's a perfection of nedivus, of like generosity, and like I haven't worked on that because Stoics aren't into generosity, so he's going to get on track, but he hasn't reached that perfection yet. And then there's a guy who has both.
So now I'm like a little confused on what difference is. I think you don't know something like that perfect natural inclination.
No, I'm saying Gibor Midosov
like
is you reach perfection of midos, however that's defined. And I'm suggesting that the Rambam is defining it based on Hilchos Deos.
So isn't that like in order to do that?
No, so that's what I'm challenging. I'm saying that you can be. There are people who are, like the Rambam says, like people have different Deos, and you could have people who either through nature or nurture are predisposed towards one extreme or the other, and you have people who are born with or raised with a natural
Well, for that person, naturally, whenever I can't think of the one that are not in extremes. Only thing I think of, honestly, like
frugal.
Yeah, the person like naturally perfected in terms of dealing with money.
Yeah.
Not always not like.
That would be Gibor Midosov.
Right.
Yeah.
And
that person wouldn't necessarily need to exercise self-control. They wouldn't necessarily need to be, Yitro Mizgaber Allah, Lo Yeh Yitro Mizgaber Allah,
But not only Yitro in that situation, it's not part of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So what does it mean? What does it mean for that person to be totally like the Yitro is in line with perfection? mean, he might have other issues, but I don't.
Right, exactly. You're asking within this one mita, then what would it mean?
Yeah, I don't understand what you're thinking to me.
Yeah, let me see if I could think of it in a clear way. Okay, I mean, I kind of have to go into my understanding of what deos are, which will probably change when we do Hilchos deos. But like perfection of deos means that okay, there's two levels of perfection of deos. There's chacham and chassid. So chassid I don't have clear, but chacham is that it's absolute fluidity in that character trait. So you're not pulled to one extreme or the other. So if the situation warrants, so frugal means you spend money that you need to spend without any obstacle, and you save money that you need to save without any obstacle. So there's nothing pulling you one way or the other. So that's the state of perfection of mitos, is that you have that fluidity. Okay, that's one. Yitzro hu misgaber b'da'ato al yitzro tamid has to do with when you are in a conflict between or theoretically, when you would be in a conflict between your mind and your emotions, you can override your emotions or subdue your emotions or channel your emotions with your mind. And that's the mechanism, not the static. Like the way I'm conceiving of it is like the perfection of mitos is like a static state where we can take a snapshot and say like, are your mitos fluid or are they not? And then that's irrespective of how your mind interacts with your mitos. But then this third quality here of humiskaber data al yitzro is what's the relation between your mind and your yetzer? Can you overpower your yetzer with your mind, or is your mind going to be a slave to your yetzer? And I'm saying that in the particular case, this guy who is frugal, so he might just naturally not have a hard time spending and not have a hard time saving, but like, is he going? Let's say there's a situation where like, I don't know, there's like, something crazy happens, where like, stock market crash.
Right.
Is that going to throw him out of whack? And if it does, is he going to be able to get back by being misgaber b'data al yitzro, or is that off now? I know it's not fully clear, but I hope it's clearer to see the distinction.
I mean, when he's put
I don't know.
away from the middle,
Yeah.
and bring himself back to the middle.
Yeah, because I think that's what's bothering you. The way you bring yourself back is through. Actually, that's not even true. That's not even true according to the Rambam. Is not being Rambam doesn't advocate that as the way to bring yourself back. The Rambam advocates going to the opposite extreme, not being misgaber b'da'ato al yitzro.
Right.
Okay, meaning that's another thing that I wasn't even taking into account until just this moment, which is that there are other ways to manage your mitos other than with your das.
Right.
Rambam says you do it behaviorally,
Not cognitive.
not cognitively.
Right.
Not that he's opposed to that, but that's not the conventional method. That's for the Roke Nefashos,
Right. So he's not talking about that here either. At all.
No.
No.
Yeah.
I see what happened there. The thing that you go from is like a snapshot of the person's state of mind in terms of their videos, and totally can control like you can interact with his mind and his ability.
Yes, and here's a test case. Is you can have an animal that's gibor b'midosa, but you can't have an animal that's misgaber b'da'ato al yitzro.
Right.
In other words, a very well trained dog would be gibor b'midosav, but that says nothing about. Yeah. All right, good. I'm glad you pushed me for the definition because it's clear. Okay, let's just see these footnotes in case they bring down any other interesting sources. Yesodei hadas shari below nevuah ein tokef laTorah. That's a weird way to say it, but without nevuah, there's no power to the Torah, or authority probably is better. Okay, fine. I accept that. Nevuah mada yeda shefa shemagia mehabor l'lev bnei adam. So that's in Tshuva. Is knowledge that reaches from the Creator to the hearts of mankind. So there he does talk about knowledge coming from God.
Mm-hmm.
Isaac, at what point did you leave? Because it's possible for us to fill you in because we were talking about one thing for a while.
Yeah.
So you get to the Gibor Midoza question and
Oh,
fine, okay. So really quick summary here, because the Rambam says he has to have be a chacham that's godable chachma, and Gibor b'midosav, and we said if we paused there and said, what do you think that means? It means that you can control your midos, or you can control your yitro. But then he says, v'lo yihi yitro misgaber la b'davar ba'olam elahu misgaber b'data al yitro tamid. So the question is, what's the difference between Gibor b'midotav and hu misgaber b'da'ato al yitro tamid? So we said that Gibor b'midotav seems to be perfection of midos, which refers to the state that your midos are in, which we said seems to be like the Rambam's middle path in Hilchos Deos. And then hu misgaber b'da'ato al yitro tamid has to do with the relationship between your das and your yetzer. And you can have perfected midos naturally or not through your das. Either you're born or raised that way, or you do behavioral strategies to get yourself that way. But being misgaber b'dat al yitro is something that is a unique like exercise of the bechira. And example I gave is you could have a well-trained dog that's gibor b'midotav. The dogs can't be misgaber b'dat al yitro because they don't have one. Okay. Now we're just reading the footnotes here. So in thing that in Tshuva he does say it comes from God. He doesn't say
from
active intellect, or he doesn't say just hakel. Yeah. And he says Bori there also. That's weird. Okay. Oh, that's another thing, by the way, that I wanted to mention in the פירוש המשניות, but it's good here also. Is Nevuah a natural or supernatural phenomenon? And the Rambam seems to be saying that it's a natural phenomenon because he speaks in terms of Kishronos mifutachim me'od and shleimus gadol. And now you could say that just means that only those guys deserve Nevuah, but it's clear from the Elkron and the Rambam that it's a natural capacity, and which I think will be clear later on. And I'm pointing that out now because the word bore is not that he has to use that word, but it fits in really well.
And also, he doesn't, in the ikkar, he doesn't mention God at all. So it seems like he's talking about like processes. Yeah.
Okay. Ikkar hanevuah hu hasagos iunios shel hanavi. So the root of Nevuah, or the essence of Nevuah, is theoretical apprehensions of the Navi, or concepts. I don't know why you want to translate hasagos. Shebahen hu matigat Hashem, through which he apprehends Hashem. Es omek haTorah es haderech Hashem menahel ba'as olamo, the depth of the Torah and the manner in which God governs the world, his world. So either insight into Torah or insight into how God relates to the world. Theoretical insight. V'yesh neviim shenevuasam shofa'as. He's going to say this later on in the I think in the Mishnah Torah. There are neviim whose prophecy shofa'as gam lacherim, spills over to others. Lahoros l'tzibur u'leman higav malatos, to instruct the community and its leaders what to do. Lahadricham b'derech haTorah, to guide them in the way of Torah. Af la'anos l'tzorchei hayachid, and even to answer the needs of the individual. Okay. Chacham gadol b'chachma. B'chachma misbareros ha'hasagos hanevuayos. So through chachma becomes clear the nevuah apprehensions. Meaning that you need, so it's interesting, what is he saying there? Or not what he's saying, what is the footnote thing saying? Yeah, Avi, I'm gonna mute you. Wait. Oh, sorry. we were trigger figure like, yeah, anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
That you can't understand, like, it sounds like from this, like you could get Nevuah.
Yeah, right?
You can't understand.
Yeah. That's not how I would read the Rambam.
Yeah.
Right? Sounds like you need the Chachma to decode the Nevuah. Yeah. Like it's a means. I mean, it's going to be a means rather than, let's say, like a precondition for receiving it. Like it means to understand it.
Right. That's what the footnote sounds like.
Yeah, that's the footnote sounds like. Where is it? We didn't finish reading it, did we? Im locain, because if not, after She'inon Ella Hazayos, even weirder. It's possible that they're just fantasies, or images, or I don't know how you want to translate hazayos. Hallucinations is a good word. Shahar lenavi darosh gam koach dimion ashir. That's interesting because the navi also possesses a strong imaginative faculty. I mean, it's weird. First of all, he's not quoting. This one's not quoting any Rambams, so yeah. But I feel like if you're at the point where your yetzer, you govern your yetzer with your mind at all times, you're not going to get seduced by fantasy. But I don't know. Yeah. Okay. It's weird. He doesn't quote anything. All right. So because that is a quote from the Rambam, which I believe we read when we did this is in Chagiga when we were doing Matan Merkava. Russia Prakim. We were doing Russia Prakim, but Matan Merkava. We weren't doing Matan Merkava. Don't worry. Don't censor us, YouTube. Because at a time of lust or desire, what was it?
How cool would that be if we lived in a society where they like
That's what they're censoring. Yeah. At a time of taiva, whatever taiva there is, then the seichel is not intact. The seichel is not complete. So that is giving a reason for why you need perfection of midos, or it's a standard of perfection of midos. And let's just compare that with what it says next. Oh, sorry. So if yoter mizeh, more than this, after yishtabshu hahasagos ad kedei shchitus musaris. Wait. Shchitus musaris. It's possible that, I guess, that your taiva will corrupt your intellectual apprehensions in a midosi corrupt way. I don't know, fine. Yeah, and he doesn't say what lo yitrim is. So the movie he's making is, it sounds like he's trying to say that the reason why you need gibor b'midos is so that it doesn't interfere with your knowledge, which makes sense. I don't have an objection to that. Yeah. Okay, and then let's do das rachava nefon ad me'od. So I translated das rachava as an abstract mind. You have any other intuitions about what das rachava means before we read what he says? I haven't read what he says yet.
Just like maybe a free mind.
Okay, that makes sense with the word rachav. Yeah. Free in what sense, though?
How does Rachel mean free?
Well,
that's
just
what I'm
like
asking.
just that it's
I have no
not,
idea.
like it doesn't have such a narrow focus, but it's able to sort of like
Think about anything without restrictions. Yeah, yeah. So that's like my understanding. That jives with my understanding as well, because in the end of the Perek Chelek of Yesodei Torah, when he's talking about who can learn davar katan, he says, ish v'isha gadol v'katan balev rachav ubalev katzar. And I know I'm interchanging lev and das here, but I think like you could translate as a narrow-minded person or wide, free-minded, or I don't know,
unbiased.
Free thinker.
I think it has the wrong connotation in English, but like it's more unbiased. Yeah, like what were you gonna say?
Instead of a narrow-minded.
Yeah, that's the opposite. Yeah, right. Yeah, so that's one possibility. And the other candidate I have is the other candidate I have is abstract, because abstraction and inability to be abstract is a type of narrowness of the mind. Like I think I told you this, that when I go over Torah Sinai, I used to be very gung-ho about doing Torah Sinai in like as early as possible. And then I found after repeated failures that you can't go over it with most 9th and 10th graders, because they lack the ability to like focus on abstractions or universals as opposed to, they get caught up in the particulars. It's like this stage where you just can't see past the particular, and
it's a weird thing to think about.
It's a weird thing to
like. No, 9th and 10th grader can't think about like something like at whole like.
And this is my experience. This is my experience. Why I don't want to say I'm not Piaget, but like, and specifically 9th and 10th grade girls, because I haven't tried teaching this to 9th grade boys, and it's possible that
Yeah, I think that's just your particular experience.
What do you call it though? So I was saying, yeah, that's a type of narrow thinking where you like your mind literally can't go into the abstract. All right, so let's see what he says. He either being the wrong or footnote guy. V'hadea ha'amura kan mashma couple. Oh, dual implication of dea here. Hein tfisa shlema umuvuseses, whether a complete and found and like a sound grasping, that's nechona, shel chaim, of life. So that's like a certain maturity, I guess. Hein v'tchunas ofi tovos. I don't know what the modern Hebrew term for ofi is. I know it means like quality or way or personality, but I don't know what. These two understandings are tied into each other. And the graph of life becomes, transforms into, I don't know what he's saying, Bermuda or Shalo Bermuda. These are all modern Hebrew terms. I'm not going to look these up right now. Let's just go with our understanding. Okay. All right. See that, by the way, that's another thing that I like about Kafef in speaking of פירוש המשניות translations. In all of his translations, he doesn't translate into modern Hebrew in the sense of like playing loose and fast with modern Hebrew words. He translates it into Rishonic Hebrew or Mishnaic Hebrew, and then only uses a modern term when there's no other word for it. Cool. And I just find that way easier to read, Okay. So we got Nevuah? Okay. All right, now he says how to become a navi. Okay, here we go. Adam shu mamula b'chol midos ha'elu, a person who is filled with all these midos. Now he's calling all of them midos. Shalim b'gufo, perfected in his body, which I have to say here, I do not think. Okay, well, let's see what footnote guy says before he says. Well, what do you think perfected in body means before we do the footnote guy?
Healthy,
In what sense?
like
Or in what respects?
I guess like not getting sick.
Okay, that's I mean that's pretty good for Shalom Begufo, but there's disproofs of you
Yeah,
that you know.
like people then neviim getting sick.
Neviim getting sick and prophesying, right? Like Yaakov Avinu getting sick and then giving the brachos at the end of his life.
Yeah,
Right.
heart with wine.
Say again with
Yeah, heart with wine.
Right.
right.
I don't think you know.
Yeah, blindness. I was gonna say is right. Is whether you call that a sickness or whether you call it something that is not functioning like normal, whatever.
Right.
Yeah, and there's got to be other examples as well,
Yeah.
But yeah. So given the fact that we rule those out, so then what's on the Begufo mean? I'm trying to think if there's anyone that had a physical impairment, and I don't count Alicia being bald. I mean,
I mean, well, I don't know. Most had like.
that's true if that was physical. And then David Melch, you can maybe count when he was old and like couldn't get warm. I don't know. But so what else should might this mean if it's not like perfect in his body?
Right.
Well, I feel like the totally needs to know.
Yeah.
Ah,
And we also have to think in terms of like I mean, again, I know we're kind of putting this together as we go, but like what types of bodily health do you think would be shaykh to Nevuah? Yeah.
understanding his body. And you don't
So-
necessarily know that. Like,
It's true, but I don't think Shalim Begufo would be.
I mean, like, not necessarily that, like, you always healthy, but you know, like, when there's something wrong.
That might be also, but then doesn't that just push the question into like what types of wrong things would?
Yeah.
Maybe like if his body isn't like hurting him, like it's not like distracting.
Okay, so I think the general category that would encompass that, and this is going to sound like I'm not even making any move here, but it has to be, there are things in the body that interfere with the processes of Nevuah. So for example, we said an imaginative faculty, right? If you have an impairment in your imaginative faculty that prevents you from getting images in your mind, I don't think you have Nevuah. If you have a problem with memory, which is according to Aristotle part of the imaginative faculty, I don't think you can get Nevuah,
Really?
or let's say if you have something that like is distracting, like not this. I'm not meant to shame anyone. I don't think someone who has ADHD can be a navi, because you need, one of the requirements of Nevuah that we'll see in a second is you have to be completely focused. So like that's a health thing that would mess with that, or other things that theoretically like would like, again, I don't know the brain, and obviously we know more about the brain than the Rambam. Let's say like certain aspects of speech or like verbal knowledge are like, okay, I don't know if a regular navi needs that, but yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I'm just restricting the scope of the Shalom Begufo to anything in the physical body that would interfere with the processes of Nevuah, which he's about to say. Yeah. Okay, now let's see what the guy says.
I feel like all those things are things that you could work on. Like those are things that people could develop.
No. Some of them you can, but if you're born like with aphantasia or no imagination, or like if you get a brain injury, like or Phineas Gage, then, and that's another thing also. What was that?
He's also very angry.
He's also very angry. Yeah, but I was gonna say that's another thing, is that certain emotional. Well, actually, this is a good example. Certain emotional imbalances or disorders that are rooted in the brain, some of them you could work on and be rehabilitated from, or at least get over that handicap. Some of them are just like the way that your brain is wired, and there's nothing you can do about it. So not everyone can be a navi just by working on it. I think yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
It's interesting, like going through these, like noticing how much of like a fantasy there is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like no one's been a navi for like 2,000 years.
Yeah. Although
it doesn't know that we know of.
Right.
That's true. Yeah. Although the funny thing is that he does not talk about it here, but I know Ray Moskowitz always said like I never want to be a Navi. Have you seen how God treated Yaakov Avinu? Like there's lots of, being a Navi comes with like a high standard of being held to, but the fantasies don't attach to that part. They just attach to like getting the knowledge. Yeah, I can find all my lost objects. I can operate to him.
I feel like the fantasy as widely as fantasy on
That's a level already. That's a level already. Yeah.
I feel like that's what most. I feel like that's what dragging most people to watch it and want to like a fun.
So I have a less charitable interpretation of that, which is I think people want that, but I don't think they associate that with Nevuah. I think with Nevuah, they want the closeness to God aspect of it. I think that's they want to be like that with God, or they want the buddy. But I don't think it's a matter of like the verification of the thing. Like, I mean, again, this is where obviously just like armchair survey taking, but again, this is after going over like, I have part of my 9th and 10th grade Navi course. I do the crash course in Nevuah where we go through all these as a checklist. So I've heard like, I feel like I've heard like literally all of the standard like reactions and questions to this, and like but not that disproves it, but like I have a large sample size from of like Nevuah fantasies to draw from. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Canes Lapartes. Oh, sorry, we didn't read the footnote, guy. Okay, so I don't know where the Rambam, where he's getting at. He's quoting the Rambam here. I don't think these sources say anything about Nevuah. The sources he's quoting, Deos 4:1 and Talmud Torah 1:8. You can check later on, but I don't think they say anything about Nevuah. Yeah.
It could be, if it's about mum, it could be that like similar to why a Kohen can mum.
Yeah.
People look to them as like.
So it's possible. So there's machlokas about ein Nevuah chala ella al chacham gibor ba'ashir, right? Nevuah only chala chacham gibor nashir, and then there's machlokas whether it's gibor mamish and like ashir mamish.
Right.
I think, and the Rambam is clearly not saying mamish for ashir or gibor. He's saying like, in terms of midos and stuff. But I've heard the explanation for those things that in order to lead, you need certain qualities. But that doesn't entirely explain it, because he's not talking about who can be a Navi. He's talking about who can get Nevuah. And the Rambam's going to say later on that you can get Nevuah just for yourself.
I see.
So, and by the way, and that's where the I mean, maybe you can dispute this, but like that's where motivated stutter would seemingly rule him out, because that's a physical. If it's a physical blemish, that would be a physical blemish that would preclude him from leading effectively. But Pgia gufanis pogaat gam b'chashiva mivnei shenefesh adam nefesh achasi ukli hachashiva him gufi. I'm reading the footnote. So ukli hachashiva him gufaniyim umushpaim mimakav haguf yon holy or right. So that's what I was saying that basically certain bodily afflictions can affect your nefesh because it's all one, and it can affect you, but that's not all of them.
Right.
Okay, back to the Rambam. Kishi kanis lapardates, when he enters into pardates, which is metaphysics, and entering means he goes into the study of. The mashif ba'osan ha'inyanos ha'gedolim ha'rachokim, and he is drawn by those wondrous and obtuse, I'm going to say obtuse here for Rachel, ideas or areas. V'tihi lo das nachon lahavin lahasik, and his mind is firm or valid or on track to understand and to grasp. V'hu miskadish v'holech, and he becomes kadosh, transcends v'holech. So he continues to become kadosh. Uporish midarche klal ha'am ha'holchim b'machashaki hazman, and he separates from the ways of the rest of the people who walk in darkness, in the darknesses of the times. Okay, we're gonna have to talk about what this means in a second. V'holech umazares atzmo, and he goes and motivates himself or stimulates himself. Umalamed nafsho, and he teaches himself, he trains himself. Avi, here's the part where you train yourself. Not to have any extraneous thoughts on any like idle things, idle ideally. So then not anything of any temporal vanities or stratagems. His mind is free upwards. Okay, freed up, literally. Tied to the bottom of the throne of glory. Lahavin ba'osan hatsurot hakadoshos hatoros, to contemplate or to understand those pure and holy forms. Umistakel b'chachmato shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu kula, and he gazes with his mind eye at the wisdom of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in its entirety. Mitzur rishona atabor aretz, from the first form, which I guess is the Chayos HaKodesh, to the belly of the earth. V'yodei mehen gadlo, and he knows from them God's greatness. Miyad Ruach HaKodesh Shorala. Then you instantly get Ruach HaKodesh. That's it. It's that easy. It's one step. Yeah. Yeah. So clearly there's a lot of stuff here that needs to be understood.
And it's very poetic.
Yeah, very much so. I once said that in a shir in yeshiva about the Rambam, and I have no recollection of who was giving shir or what the context was. And someone said, chas v'shalom, that you should say that the Rambam is saying something like just to be poetic, Now I don't know where that came from. I don't know, maybe it was an area where it was right as dead. But what I do want to say is that I do think that your observation is good. That there are times when the Rambam is being poetic, but that doesn't negate the fact that he's also being specific. Like I think what this person was objecting to was saying the Rambam is just being flowery in his language and he doesn't actually mean what he's saying, or it's not subtle. No, you can say stuff that is technical and you can say stuff in a poetic way. There's so yeah, good call. So what do you mean?
I wasn't sure if that's what he said.
Yeah. Best place to be kosher, yeah. Yeah. So you know what we should do actually? Let's read one more paragraph because this is completing the picture. And then let's go back and try to get some rudimentary understanding, even if we have to stop. You see that the publishers divided it afterwards, so they thought that we should stop there. Okay. Not that I want to endorse their practice. Yeah, we should stop the shir now. And at the time when I should also mention, and this is something that's going to cast a dubious shadow over everything we do. Rambam does not hold that Ruach HaKodesh is synonymous with Nevuah in all cases. For example, in the more Nevuchim, he differentiates between the different levels of Nevuah, and he says that there's two levels beneath actual Nevuah, which is Ruach HaKodesh, and then Ruach Hashem is level. Ruach Hashem is level 1, Ruach HaKodesh is level 2, and the level 3 is actual Nevuah. And or another example is the Rambam says that in the more Nevuchim also that what differentiates the Sfarim that were included in neviim and the ones that were included in Ksuvim is that neviim were through Nevuah and Ksuvim is Ruach HaKodesh, But sometimes he does use them interchangeably, like here. It seems to be talking about Nevuah.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's see. Maybe we're misreading. I just wanted to throw that out there that I think people again, classic ninth grade. Is it true that Rashi wrote with Ruach HaKodesh? And what they usually mean when they ask that is Rashi Nevuah?
Right.
Because that's what their elementary school teachers teach them, but so maybe it's Ruach HaKodesh, but that's different than saying Rashi's Navi. Okay. When the Spirit rests upon him, at the time that the Spirit rests upon him, here we get to the active intellect. His soul mixes or mingles with the level of the angels that are called Ishim. That was the 10th level, and that's what the Rambam. That's what is the Seichel Poal, and that's what the Rambam in the פירוש is calling, the Hischabrus, the joining of the human intellect to the Seichel Poal, but he doesn't call that here.
I don't know if you mean the whole, other than the fact that we're not in the time.
Because so there's one way that we know it, which is also not entirely from the Rambam, but in Hilchos Yesodei Torah, when he defined the actually, I'm just going to read it from here. When he first, am I going to get Mishnah Torah dust all over my hand?
Is that literal or metaphorical?
Can it be both? Okay, when we talk about the levels, and he says Ishim, didn't he say that the 10th level is Notzin Hatsuros? Okay, if I can't find it right now, I think that in that Perek. I'll have to look, but we don't know it for sure. Yeah. From the Rambam, I mean, yeah. Okay, but let's put it this way. Something is mixing with angels here and something mixed with angels there in the Perek Chelek, I mean, right? And so it definitely, we can assume that they're referring to the same thing. I think it's a safe assumption. The hafech li ish acher, and he becomes another ish. That's what happens when you mix with the ishim. You become another ish. V'yavin b'dato she'eno kamot shahaya, and he understands in his mind that he is not like he was.
Wait, hold on. Isn't it only
You're going to drag us back into the issue of are there many angels on each level?
Yeah, we don't have to.
Plain shot is that there are 10 levels. That's how the Rambam says it, right?
Okay.
Plain shot in the Rambam, I mean.
But he said 10 more.
Kol elu asar Hashem shenikru behen hamalachim Hashem eser ma'alos shelahen hein. Mala shein malamala mimena ela malach hakal baruch hu malach hatsurot shenikris chayos. So it sounds like he's saying that there are particular malachim on each level.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so he becomes an ish acher, and he understands in his mind that he's not like he was. Ela shnis Allah al ma'ala shar b'nei adam hachachamim. Rather, he has ascended above the level of the other human beings who are chachamim. Because of course that's like the go-to example for Navi. No, but I guess this is the only pasuk that says it in those terms. V'his nabisa imam, he prophesied with them. You prophesied with them, or you prophesied with them. V'hnepachtal ish acher, and have become another person, transformed into another person. Yeah.
That's crazy.
You have a particular craziness in mind, or you're just saying,
what does it mean to become a new?
yeah,
Is it a new person or just another malach?
let's say another person, right?
Yeah.
You mix with the malachim, but you go into another person.
Well, ish means malach.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think you have a ish acher. I hear you reading.
Either way, what does it mean?
Yeah, either way was it. And the Navi is called a malach. I mean, that's clear throughout Tanakh. Yeah.
It seems like, and he seems to be making a point of that you're self-aware.
Yeah.
That you know.
Yeah. So that's a thing also that another one of the many questions I get is like, how do you know that you're getting Nevuah?
You just do.
Yeah. So the way I answer the question, which I not based on personal experience, is like, if I ask you to like remember what you ate for breakfast this morning, so you're remembering. If I ask you like those who can picture a pink elephant, and then if I ask you to imagine, if I ask you to calculate 2 + 2 = 4, okay. So you just did 3 mental processes, and you don't think you're doing math when you're imagining pink elephants, and you don't think that you're like remembering your breakfast when you're doing math. In your mind, they're like distinct processes, and presumably what happens is when you get Nevuah, there is a distinct process that registers in your mind as something else. And you have to say that according to, again, if you don't accept Torah, then that's a different story. But like I'm saying, a Jew who accepts Torah has to have a basic premise that a Navi knows when they're a Navi, because otherwise the whole thing falls apart. Like it must be, in other words, there must be an unambiguous process when it happens. Yeah. And if you want to use another analogy, like you don't, unless you have like, I don't even know if synesthesia people have this, but like if you don't think that you're seeing something when you're actually hearing something, So like it's distinct processes in the mind, and Nevuah is another one of these things. Yeah. Okay, so I think what we should do is stop here, and then not because this is where the publisher divided it, and then I do want to try to get some elementary understanding of like what these are, even if we can't go into depth with these before we move on, because it's like he's saying it for a reason. It's not just being poetic, Yeah.
Even though he is being quiet.
Even though he's being poetic, yeah, just not just.
You can't say it's poetic.
Okay. Here we go.